Yo, so we are here for another Bounded conversation. Bounded. So I have this on my face because we are talking about a book tonight called Still Laughing. So I just thought it would be appropriate to to have this on at the beginning. I'll switch it off when we get started. But give it a few minutes. We're early. We have an amazing poet, amazing artist, amazing person that's coming tonight. Dara Kalima. She is an amazing author. She has just authored her first non-poetry book that's actually open for pre-order right now, and it's called Still Laughing. So you see why I have this on, because who laughs more than Joker? You will see Dara actually laughs more than the Joker, and her laugh is just as infectious as the laugh of Joker from Batman. But so I'm gonna be on for a few moments. If you don't know who we are, this is 2i Publishing, and what I am the founder, Tony, or you can follow me at Tony 2i's, and that's on IG as well as Facebook. Posting it here. And I am, no, this is not it. This is more the Joker. That's a horror movie. I'm trying to go a little bit more comic-y. I don't know. So 2i Publishing is a company that I founded, and that was after I wrote my first book. I realized that the process of actually creating a book is very meticulous, and to be able to create a product that, one, is quality. A light just went out. Idiot thing. So one that is quality, and then one that will be something that you can take pride in, and that you can get all of your ideas onto a bounded book is a very hard thing to do. And you want it to look professional. You want it to, when a person picks it up, that they can't tell or that they don't find any errors or anything like that. And those meticulous steps takes skill as well as a team around you, as well as experience in the field. So as I was doing it, I did not have the experience, all of the key experiences, but I built the team around me that had the different skills and experiences. And so as I created my book, which is called Her, and it is all black, which that was like, that was kind of difficult. I have flashbacks when I talk about making the black, because it was hard to get every page not to have a little white line around it. But through those trials that I went through, I decided that I wanted to start a company that would help authors, help poets, help writers of all kinds, to bring their writing dreams into fruition. And I would utilize my skills as an artist and I would utilize the team that I built, editors and other creative people, to help people create their books. And so outside of that, I realized, because I used to run open mics, I realized that a book is more than just words in a cover. And it starts, I feel, at the cover. The cover design is so important because a person should be experiencing from the start to the end. So when they first see your book, what are they thinking about? What are they doing? And not only that, is you are because we're still laughing. That's why I'm in a clown face. But I'm going to take it off when we actually start. I have 2 minutes. So I realized that the book also does not start at the cover. It actually starts with the person that wrote it. And so that's why I started an initiative outside of just the publishing part of the company. I started an initiative that I wanted to start helping create experiences that would help people, outside of just my company, but people that self-publish and get their voice out, get their words out, because their stories matter as well. And so I started an initiative that was first called BYOBB. We still have that. We just finished up another series, and it's basically a laid back, I call it a boozy book club, which you get to basically relax and have an experience with. Hey, babe. Oh, she's going to say something about my face. Don't let me change it. How do you change it, actually? You can't change it? Oh, there we go. So, there we go. Okay, so I decided to start, I did those BYOBB, and then now we have Bounded Conversations every month, where I sit down one-on-one with authors and discuss what's in the book, but also what's outside the book. The experiences that came before the book was actually created. What's behind the words. And so with that said, I am now going to bring to you the author, the highlight, other than my adopted sister, I call her, as well as my friend, partner in crime, Miss Dara Kalima. There she goes, Dara Kalima, everyone.
Hey, sorry.
I'm like, how she comes on right when I call her on?
Yeah, I was doing something and I was like, he's talking, and he said, I got 2 minutes, so I'm not going to worry too much about him being ready yet, because he's talking about stuff. So
that's what you thought, huh? That's what you thought.
Apparently I thought wrong, though, so shame on me.
How are you doing today?
I am good, I think. I'm excited. Hey.
You talking to me?
Yes.
Hey. My whole point for tonight is to get that laugh out of you that you did when you recorded that video. The gut-wrenching laugh.
So that's your goal, is to make me do that?
Yes, that is my goal.
Good luck.
Especially when it has to do with something that I'm trying to force.
Good luck. Challenge on. It's like that. I was just watching the Cosby Show before this. You know, it wasn't that episode, but you know that episode where he's doing the tap dance and he goes, challenge.
No, I'm sorry. I was watching Cosby Show, but I didn't have it in my long-term memory. Anything.
Shame on you.
But somebody else in the comments say that they relate to that. But
that's okay. You were a baby. I know. It wasn't.
I was watching Thundercats.
I was watching Thundercats too.
I didn't flip over to the next station. I watched Thundercats. I watched everything else that came after it.
Corey Yellow's in here too. Say what? We got Cat. Everyone's here. Do you see that? Hey,
hold
Coquito.
on.
Hey, Kat. Hey, Dawn. Hey, Tanika, I saw you earlier.
Cat, meow, meow. That's what I call her. Okay, so we're going to get started. I kind of gave all of the introductions to the company, but for those that were not here, we are 2i Publishing, and we are the creator of experiences, and some of them happen to be books. So one of our experiences that we started this year was called Bounded Conversations. And it's come from my idea of sitting down one-on-one with authors and giving them a platform to not only just talk about their book, but also talk about who they are as a person outside of the book and what kind of experiences they had that inspired their pages and the words on them. And those things actually allow us to see authors as humans and see the same things that you go through, they also go through. And some of the words that you see, and in her book in particular, you know, she's talking about situations that were very painful or traumatic to her, but you have to also, you know, have some sense of humor about it when looking back at it and still laugh. And that is the title of her book, Still Laughing. I decided to leave my book because I was reading and I was in deep read, and I left my book at work because I had to go back to work after reading it. And so it lay on my desk and I was rushing out to get home so I could be prepared for tonight. But I left the book. It's a beautiful book, if I can say so myself, because 2i Publishing did have, oh, there we go, she has, there we go. So ignore the little strip that says sample, but
it says book, not for resale.
Yes. Oh, I thought it said, okay, not for resale. So this book, and you know, happy go lucky as it looks, is filled with a lot of things that were traumatic, that were things that I mean, you talk about it. I was reading at work, and you talk about them as if they're just, you know, casual stories. And I must commend you on being an amazing storyteller, like to be able to go from beginning and then how you ended. The first chapter like sets up everything. I didn't get a chance to read the whole book.
Sorry.
The first chapter sets it up very good to see your style and to see how amazing you are at telling a story from start to finish. And I know that it's just going to get better from there. So are you ready to get into this?
I mean, as ready as I'm going to be. I have my tea brewing.
Oh, thank you for
have
me.
Letter.
These bits are sponsored by a company by the name of Dainty Company. And it is actually one of the companies that I'm involved in. And it is a tea company that brings tea back into the tea experience. And if you can hold that up again. I have one too. Okay. So instead of giving you bags of tea, what this company does is they give you a tube of individual teas. Now, these teas can be used as standalone teas, or they can be used in a different combination mixture, and you can create your own blends. So this first kit comes with lavender, spearmint, licorice root, rose petals, and then gunpowder green.
I'm not holding mine in the right order.
You've been using yours. This is a sample, so it's in the right order for
there
pictures.
We go.
But with Dainty, you can actually create tea to your taste. So maybe you like licorice root. Maybe you like the taste of gunpowder green mixed with rose petal, or gunpowder green with spearmint, which is called a Moroccan mint. And maybe you like that mixture. So you can actually go into your kitchen, and now it becomes your tea lab, and you can mix and match the tea how you see fit. So what did you mix tonight?
I mixed them all, but I realized I'm so anxious about running out. Like, not like I can order more, which is ridiculous, even though I haven't even had enough of it. But whatever. I'm so anxious about running out. And I definitely am running lower on the green. So I actually added, that's why I walked away. I was adding some jasmine to it. So we'll see how it tastes this time, because I had jasmine from another container. But it's the whole thing with a little bit of jasmine.
Great. And the whole thing that she's talking about is the whole mixture of all 5. And that is the signature blend, which is called Guns and Roses. So, and it's because it has gunpowder green and also roses as the key ingredient. So please go over to Dainty Co. I dropped it in the comments. Dainty Co. DAINTEACO. And order and follow the link in their bio and order a box, a tea kit.
While you keep talking, I'm gonna fill this up again. I just filled this up. Empty it.
Okay. So that is our sponsor for tonight's event, and we believe in tea, and tea goes well with books. So please indulge in both at the same time. Make a brew and grab a book. We have a selection at 2i Publishing of a catalog of about 7 books, and it ranges in topics from love to mental health to even erotic. We have an erotic anthology that we produce for Poetics University. So please go and take a look at what we have and what we offer. And this is just the start. We are younger than a year, and we are blossoming. There's a lot of authors that have reached out to us now that we have made a couple of books, and we have 2, 3, 4 in the making right now. So a lot of people are coming, and we have some exciting news about some new services that we're going to offer. That's going to be a little bit later. So let's get back to, since she's back now. I was just filling in the gaps.
I'm here.
I can talk for days, but let's get back to this event. And this event is for the book Still Laughing. And I want to get down into the meat of who you are as a person so that people can see, and then also into the meat of the book. Although we're not going to give them a lot because they need to go and get the book. It's on pre-order right now. Is that correct?
Yes, on my website. You can pre-order it at DonnaKalima.com.
Great. And so she's going to drop the links into the chat. You don't have to do it now. You don't have to do it now.
It's fine. It's already on my clipboard.
Oh, I'm sorry. She comes prepared. And if you don't know, she is actually a part of the company 2i Publishing. She's also a part of Poetics University, and she is an amazing person. So let's get into this. So first question is, what inspired you as a poet to write said memoir? Was the different style and approach difficult?
So it's interesting. It's such a hard question. So I have been writing, period, my entire life. So I wasn't only writing poetry as a child. The first thing that I actually probably have is a short story I wrote, and it was a really good story. It was about this girl named Kalima, who was like a princess, and she was a princess of these groups of people who were the dorks. And there was an evil queen who wanted to take over their village or something, and Kalima was like the hero of the whole story and saved the dorks. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? So I was writing these short stories as a kid, and but then I was also writing poetry. And then I went to school for theater, but while in school I was taking a writing class because I wanted to, a fiction class. I wanted to fill these chops. Even in high school, I was writing some of the fictionalized stories for our yearbook. Mm-hmm. So I was writing not just poetry my whole life. But when I got to college, a friend of a friend who was in my class was bad-mouthing my writing. The problem is she said it in front of her roommate, who happened to be my friend. So my friend told me, and I don't know if she told me to protect me or to warn me about the character of that person, but what I took it as was, I'm not a good writer. And so I stopped writing things that were not poetry and solely focused on poetry. But I've been part of a writing workshop or a writing practice for a very long time. And most of what I write in the writing workshop is not at all poetry. It's usually just stuff that poured out my head. And sometimes it's a story, sometimes it's some random stuff. But it's so like I have not always only written poetry. I've just primarily written poetry. And so I just it just made it I was doing a friend kept telling me I need to write more. I have friends who love and adore me, but would not buy a book of poetry because they don't get down with poetry. But this one friend kept saying, "You need to write a book. You need to write a book." I was like, "I got 3 books." She goes, "No, you need to write a book of poetry. I mean, a book that's not poetry. You need to write these stories about your love life." And I'm like, I don't think so. And then a series of things happened, and I had no place to put those things. Like I fractured my elbow and I was catfished or catfish adjacent, however you want to phrase that. And so between those 2 moments, I didn't have a place to put those stories. So, and they weren't poems. They weren't bubbling up as poems. At that point, I wrote the story. And then I wrote a whole bunch of stories. I mean, it's like 17 in this book, but I probably wrote like 21 or something. There's some that didn't make it into the book.
I think one of the interesting things that you just mentioned, one first, you have a way of actually telling a story. I just asked that simple question, and that way that you actually describe is one of the things that I enjoyed about the read, and how you can actually take this scenario or the story that is at hand. And like there was a whole bunch of characters that you just mentioned, but they're all anonymous. And the only thing that you have is that they're friends, so that there is a certain attachment that you can give to them. So you have all the elements of a story in there, without actually stating names. And I think that was one of the things that when you were telling me about how you were writing and some of the topics that you were writing about, I'm like, yo, some of these things can, like, some people may not like this, that you're talking about them like this. And so, but when I started, when you sent me the book, I realized how the technique that you used to kind of tell the story with giving enough details for you to not focus on who this person is, who that person is, but really bring it back to you, and you navigate, and you're the first person, you know, it's coming from your narration. And then the second thing that leads me to is your stories kind of originate, or your style originates just what you just said, from where you just said, as a child you've been writing, and you were talking about your childhood, but there's a certain, like, when you look back at childhood and you explain it as an adult, you usually are coming from the perspective of an adult looking back at a child, you know, and telling that story from what you have learned through your years. But you have been able to go back and actually now embody that experience, like even to the point where, you know, kids are in the now. So you're honest and you're like, I don't remember the details. I don't remember how I got outside, but I was outside, and that's not a part of this story. But understand that I did get outside, and we're just going to go skip a few details that really are not part of the point. This is what it is. And I appreciated how you were able to do that, because and out of this the first chapter, I guess we can get into it. The first chapter was something that, because I was wondering, okay, who is supposed to read this book, and what are they gaining from it? And so when I got to when I read the first chapter, because you actually tell the story from the child's point of view so innocently and purely, I saw it as, okay, I need to start paying attention to how my children, you know, react to certain things that I am doing, because this could be them telling this story. And so what do you think about that? Sorry,
I don't know what you're asking me.
Well, how are those things intentional? Do you sit down and intentionally do, like you say that you're going to tell it in that state? Do you, is this a skill that you learned, or it, like, to story, the art of storytelling? Did you take a course? Did you do anything that actually set you up to do this memoir?
So it's interesting. So to give a little bit, the story that he's referencing, the first story is called My First Trauma, and it's about a trip. And it's probably not my first trauma, but it's the first trauma that popped in my head when I used that title. And it's about a trip I took to Virginia to see family. And it was a very traumatic experience where I was essentially like, a lot of other people's paradigms were put upon me that were not mine to hold and to have. And it was all these promises of all the fun I was going to have with this relative, and it was not that at all. It was borderline torture. And it's so funny because it's the things that we don't think of our kids experiencing when they're away, or we don't think about the ways in which we put our own adultness on a child. Even if the child may be talking about adult stuff, they may not even have a clue what that meant, They're just mimicking, they're just acting out, they're just whatever, but they're not necessarily, some are aware, some are not. So that said, I think as I wrote the book, generally, I tried to be as present and remember as many details, recall the details, because if I recall the details, then you're going to be with me. If I just tell the story and I don't give you something tangible to hold on to, you're not there with me, And I don't know where that came from, but I know in other stories, as painful as some of those stories were to retell, I've really tried to go like, okay, so in this story, I go, what did her living room look like? And I can remember, like, there's a kitchen behind me. There's like this big living room. I don't remember where her bedroom was in relation to the living room, but it was like, I felt it's definitely off to the right somewhere. I just don't remember a door. I don't remember how you get into this living room at all. And then I know if you walk all the way over, you walk into the den. So that's what the house looked like. And I know there was a closet, but that closet wasn't a closet. It was stairs to an attic. And so I remember those details about her house. And so that was important to like give you a lay of the land. Is your little tiny person that looks giant, except for the kitchen felt really small. So even if the rest of the house felt giant in my 7-year-old frame, that kitchen felt really tiny still. I know we spent a lot of time in there. So I really sat there and like just sort of had to sit down and remember, what do I remember? I remember it being possibly red. I know it was dark and it was wood. I don't remember a lot of, like, there's details that are never going to come back. But
and the thing is, you actually say that. I don't remember how, but I do remember this detail.
And I think I did run out the front door. I'm terrified of fire. There's no way I probably ran out the back door. Like, there's no way I ran out the back door. I had to run out the front door.
We're not going to give any more details on that because they need to read the book and find out what we're talking about when we talk about run out the back. But we'll skip around a little bit. So I had a question, but that question led into something else. So let me go back. When is the book officially dropping?
It is officially coming out April 13th. So you can pre-order it now on my website, but you can get it April 13th. It'll be in ebook, it'll be in paperback, and it'll be in hardcover. And the hardcover has a few more extra things in it to make it worth the expense.
Ooh. Okay, so it's coming in 2 different versions?
Yep.
And, 3 different versions, ebook as well. Yep. Paperback, and also the hardcover. So if you are looking to seriously add this to your collection, then go with the hard book, because it's a beautiful book, and people will probably look at it on your coffee table and be like, what is this about? It's not a quick read, so they'll have to borrow it and make sure that you charge them late fees if they don't bring it back one time. But it is a a read that I was at work and I got so absorbed and I put it on my desk after my boss came around and asked me to do something that I left it there and forgot to put it back in my bag. But I was reading, I think I went a little bit over on my lunch break because I was reading it. But I stayed up a little bit late last night reading it. So it is a read that makes you want to find out more details because of how enticing she actually writes, or pure she writes. And so the next question is, this is a little different of a book for you, I guess, because I do not, hold on, let me read the question first. Oh, okay. So what are the main topics and themes in this book? Just to get that out.
I don't even know if there was, so I talk about childhood stuff. I talk about oh gosh, I can't even tell you. So there's stories, and there's stories about friendships, there's story about romantic stuff, there's story about failure. Those are the stories. So there's stories about my hero journey. Those are the stories that exist in the book. When I sat down and read it again to really read it, there's about 2 themes that pop up that weren't like ever intentional, which is sort of like self-worth and body image a little bit, or self-esteem that bubbles up, and then racism. And I don't have a topic explicitly on racism, but somehow it pops up in a significant amount of my stories.
Yeah, I think from that first story, I can see the self-esteem and just the building of character in people, you know, and just that one story had a lot of weight in it. And it was something that you carried for years, and it was only a matter of time of a summer. But it carried weight in your life as a child up into probably teenage years. It was at teenage years? Yeah. Did it last?
Well, I mean, the first time I really told anyone, I was already in my 20s.
Oh, never mind. Okay, when you said you talked to your mom, I thought it was like later on, like
I didn't tell her until I was in my 20s.
Okay, so this thing happened and it went throughout the rest of the childhood, and it really showed me that, you know, different moments in a kid's life can actually impact them in ways that we don't really acknowledge, and some people just look over it and say just get over it and move past it. But it is something that shapes character, because as kids, we're trying things. We're trying to figure out where our place is in the world. And when people come and characters come into our lives, and they either influence us or they deter us from a certain thing. You know, in my life, I had my uncles that were in prison, and that actually influenced me to never do anything that is criminal or anything like that, because I don't want that to be a result. And I know in your particular story, you know, it was kind of that character that made you kind of want to deter away from being in the presence of that again, you know, and so those, I think that is evident in the read, and when you read it, you can resonate with the stories. You know, the one thing, and the title is great because it says "Still Laughing," and I'm still laughing. Sorry, cancel that G. But there were moments in time of reading it that I chuckled out loud because I couldn't hold it, because the okra, I actually tasted okra while reading. I eat okra now, but I tasted the version when I was a kid.
I don't mess with okra. They tried to convince me and my homegirl for my birthday, like maybe 5 years ago, whatever. we were up at one of the bars in Harlem or restaurants in Harlem, and it was like, oh, you should get the fried okra. You know, if you fry it right, it's not going to be slimy. It's going to be good. And then both of us, for whatever reason, do not like okra. And so they gave us both a piece, and we both looked at each other like, it's still slimy. That was it. It was fried. It wasn't oozing. Ugh, but it was still slimy.
Yeah, I hate when I get, because I like it. I like the taste. I can't eat a gumbo without it. But when I get the okra, I put it off to the side because sometimes they have them the full, and I'm like, I'm not dealing with. Because then you try to bite it, and then it just
stop.
So I'll save you from revisiting that.
But you did peep how I said the honeydew melon was.
Yes, was the sweet version of okra. I laughed at that too.
Yeah.
I usually don't let melon get cold, so I've never probably. I think get high. I think I've left it out before, but I eat it anyways. It reminds me more because cantaloupe is that slimy texture, but it has a particular flavor that you can deal with, you know, with the texture if you get it right. If it's ripe and good, then you don't have to worry about that. But some overripe ones do taste like that, but it doesn't have a distinct taste that makes slimy nasty. But enough about okra and melon. Let's go back to still laughing. So I remember why that question was weird, because I said this is a little different because I did not read the book, but you actually gave me a book, so I did actually get to read it a little bit before actually coming here. So I'm going to skip the next question because it was actually pertaining to not reading the book. How long did it take you to write this?
So the incidences that started the book, which again was me fracturing my elbow and the guy who kind of catfished me, that was all 2017. I was really done by 18, and then I went to a writer's retreat, and there I ended up rewriting one of the stories, and the retreat just sort of gave me an idea of what was missing. So seeing what was missing, which were those details, it was, I didn't put you in her house. I was in her house, but I didn't put you in her house. Or I didn't make the okra slimy. And so I had to put those little moments in to heighten those moments so that you were actually present with me. And she did, it wasn't like she taught that, but she gave us exercises that were like, now describe, we had to describe something for 10 minutes. The first 3 minutes, you done did it. You done did the basic, this is what it looks like. So everything that came after that was like, oh, but it's the thing around it, and it has this other thing, and then, oh, there's specks on it. Where did the specks come from? So you go into a deeper dive of those moments, and so those exercises really got me looking deeper. So I was done by the beginning of 2020 for writing and editing, but that's not really true because it took 2020 to edit the heck out of the sucker. So, so almost 4 years to get it from where it was from concept to now, just under 4 years.
So COVID actually helped you out because I think it gave you that a time to be able to devote to this.
I don't know, because Poetics took me away from it, because I spent January in my dad's house, in his office, on his computer. Like, my dad lives in North Carolina, so I spent a good portion of that time on his computer in North Carolina, or on my computer, but in his office, working on the book and editing it. So there was a lot of work done before Poetics entered, before the pandemic happened. And then the pandemic switched me back to poetry and away, and then had to fight to get back to
I forgot. Yeah, there was a big period of time. Gotcha. Okay, so one of the things that I want to point out for people that are watching that are also writers, and I know this about your character, it's you're always continually, like, aggressively, like, learning. Like, and I use aggressively purposefully because you have a knack for wanting to push yourself further and hard and go harder than whatever you think is, enough. And we always have those conversations, you'd be like, what do you think I need to do? And I tell it to you, like, yeah, I don't want to do it. But then you do it. And then you actually not only do what I suggested, but then you take it a little bit further and go beyond. And so one of the things I want to point out is how you were done in 18, but continually wanting to better yourself. You actually enrolled in a writing workshop, or, you know, it may not have been for the book, or it may have been for the book, and you pushed yourself to another level. And I think it was probably the best thing ever, because what I see right now is a polished piece of work, and it's not amateur. You're taking it all in. You're taking it all in. A polished piece of work, and I want to commend you for doing that, and I think it's something that people should actually take and follow, that aggressiveness. I mean, you may not be on her level, because it's hard to be on that level, but you can take the lesson there, which is when you think you have reached a certain point, continue to climb more. Continue to climb more. It's only going to take you, and whatever you're doing, it's going to make it a lot better. Whatever you're doing. These things could also be things that actually go into your job. You know, your emails may be more polished now because you took that writing class. So it's all about building your skill level. And I know that you have a name for being called the prompt conqueror inside of Poetics University, which those prompts are practices, are exercises, and every single one is helping you get better. So I did want to point that out. And for those that are actually listening, that are trying, that may be in the place that you were in 2018 or 2017 when you were not done, and they can push their pen a little bit further by actually enrolling in a Poetics University class, or, you know, they can enroll in a writing workshop. There's a whole bunch out here now. Be involved and take your writing a little bit further, because when we start off, you know, she said that she's been writing since a child. We all have been writing since a child, really, because we all went to school. So but
not everyone was being creative. I was doing plays in third grade.
Okay,
I'm doing finger puppet plays. Don't ask me why. With tinfoil, but we were doing it. Yeah, I was a crazy artist, making up stories always.
I used to do.
My favorite toy was a typewriter.
I didn't have a typewriter. I had the first. I didn't have the first computer. I had a computer. Windows 95 was when I first got my computer, and I used to write there. I used to write stories. I had a story. Never mind. We're not gonna go down that road. Okay. Because I lost that. It's a history. So let me see. What? Okay. I think we kind of answered the next question, which was what do people walk away with, and I think that is about the two topics that you said they'll walk away.
I didn't know you asked what themes were in it. So the themes were the two that bubble up with self-esteem and racism, without it being intentional. What people can walk away with. It really depends on who you are.
Okay. Who's the book for, would you say?
Anyone who wants to read it.
Come on, who is the key?
What did we say last time we talked about this? Because I keep changing my answer. I don't know. I'm so bad with answering this question. I mean, part of it personally is for my nieces and my mentees. My mentees are older now. My nieces are actually older too. But they started them. Part of it, I want them to read it so they can see their mom in the stories, even if my sister's not in it.
Friendly?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's not, but the last story, second to last story, is a little mature.
Okay.
The rest of it would be, because I don't write anything but so specifically. I don't use bad language, but I do talk about a mature encounter that happens.
Okay.
But it is like, but my nieces are older. I guess two of them are legally adults. The youngest one is not yet.
I thought you were talking about little babies. Okay.
No, but they lost their mom when they were young, And so there's moments where you can see my sister in the stories a little bit, so they can get that. They can get some of the wisdom I had. Hopefully they don't repeat some of my stuff. It's a little too late to stop them from repeating some of my stuff too. But so selfishly, it's sort of for them. To know who I am, the part of me that they also don't get to see because of the family dynamics of auntie and adjacent to mama, which is my mom, and such. So it's sort of for them, but it's really for anyone who needs to find a reason to persevere. And oh my goodness, hey Kevin! That's a friend from elementary school. Sorry, just had a moment. So it's for anybody who needs to persevere, who needs to know. Oh, and there's stories about elementary school. If you're still there, Kevin, there's totally school stories about Grace. Oh, I maybe shouldn't have said the name. Anyway.
Yeah. I was like, hold on. You say you don't say names.
The school doesn't exist anymore, so I don't feel so bad about it. The school literally doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, so it's sort of it's for anyone who needs to figure out how to make it through moments. I talk about the moment I didn't want to be here anymore, as like I didn't want to be here. Not just here, like here. I talk about that, and then I just continue on about like, but I am here, and nothing's going to take me out unless it's really time to take me out. I'm not going to take me out. But like I talk about these moments that are not so you don't feel alone, so you don't feel like you're in the wrong for some things, or just even if it is bad stuff, to be able to like find a way to succeed and exist in amongst those things. Like I don't know if I'm making sense. So anyway, but it also is for people who don't listen to Black artists or Black creatives. It is a view into my life and how racism impacts my life, or what it means to be a Black woman from the Bronx, and how it doesn't have to be the knives in the hair or the knives under the lip. I mean, the blades under the lips type of story you hear about the Bronx, but it also is not always that easy or that cute, you know? I was raised in the backlash of the 70s. So I was born at the end of the 70s. So I was raised in the 80s, and I saw the vacant lots. And so when I see pictures of the vacant lots, I look with nostalgia and like this conflicted feeling. Like, why was there vacant lots? Why was there so many crack vials? I really thought crack vials were like little perfume vials, because the same type of things. I used to pick them up and try to see. I was like, why is there dust in here? Like, it doesn't make sense. So that's the childhood of living in the Bronx or being in the inner city growing up, right? But also just like the places where this is not an easy choice, and this is a political choice that it shouldn't be. And so understanding that it is a view into my life, and if you read it correctly and you read past just the story of moments in my life, you start picking up the impact that society has had on why the Bronx was destroyed, why my hair is an issue, why I may have the self-worth issues, in part because of what society says about what we look like or do or how we move, or what the expectations are on us that are not necessarily realistic. Like, those things are still, they're subtly there. They're subtly there. And like, even like the self-esteem thing, again, is very subtle, because you, in that story, the only real statement that's a statement of self-esteem was, he liked me. If he followed you, he liked me, and I liked being liked. It's the only statement that's really of self-esteem worth in that whole chapter of the first trauma. But that still says a lot. That already is planting the seed of me being liked per somebody else, and it's a whole. So it's a view into a lot.
The relationship with your aunt, the whole dynamic there is also a self-esteem thing. Even the fact of you actually talking about going into the corner on your own, even though you didn't get in trouble that often, you know, these are all little elements of self-esteem.
I was like, when did I go into the corner? I was always home. Oh no, when I put myself in the corner. When I punished myself for something I wasn't doing.
So those are things where a kid has to make a decision based off of the influence of someone else's actions or something like that. So it is little moments of self-esteem development or detriment that occur in that chapter, and I'm pretty sure it happens throughout the remaining parts of the book as well. And which brings me to another question that's not on the list. But you're a poet, as far as experience and resume. So is there any elements of how you wrote this that also had the kind of the subliminal messaging kind of, where maybe all readers are not going to get some of the things or the way that you laid it out? I know you probably put it somewhere. There's probably some kind of cycle or something, how you laid out the chapters or something like that. Is there any hints you can give us?
So, no, I don't think I'm consciously not saying stuff. I think there's things I'm not saying, and there's things, topics I never touch on purpose. There's moments I hint at, and you need to pick up, and that is a poet thing, right? Like, because poets work in metaphor, and we work on scarcity of words a little bit. So I say things this quick, and if you don't catch it, you didn't catch it. But it was important to lay the ground of what you're picking up next, right? Another friend from elementary school. Look at that. Look at that. So, yeah, we went to elementary school together. Her family is why I went to space camp when I was a kid. I skipped that in my story because the story would have been too long about camp. But her family is why I went to space camp as a kid.
Almost went into the book.
So I think that I dropped really quickly that you pick it up, you don't, it'll wash over you, and maybe it'll build in your mind. There's some things that are subconscious in how I manipulate words a little bit, but generally speaking, I wrote the book like I write any other book. So it's not a linear book. It's not a small to big or a type of story. It is, I wrote a series of stories. And I sat down with all my stories and said, nope, yeah, nope, yeah. Oh, that's terrible. No. Wait, let's rewrite this one. And that's sort of what I do with the book of poetry, right? I come in with like a whole bunch of poems and say, nope, yes, no. Is it on theme? Does it make sense? Does it have legs? Is it good? And then I piece it together and how they communicate with each other. So if you read the book properly, you will catch that I go from 30 to 20 to 30 at one point in the stories. But it's sort of
that's not an easy pattern to catch in a 300-page book. Like,
I mean, it's when you get to near the end of the book, you if you really pay attention, the age changes in the story. Or I break up with somebody twice in the book because it was the same breakup, but I'm telling it from two different angles. So
okay, we got an exclusive there. There's a relationship description that comes from two different angles. Okay,
I mean, the person's name. Some people are named. The first story, there are no names, but people are named. They just don't have their real names. So it is a made-up name, or we'll just go if it's a made-up name.
Or it's a
name may not be completely made up.
Some
may be based upon real names, but whatever. So, but either way, their main name is definitely not the one being used if it's another name. So like you'll see that one character shows up twice, and they actually show up, like one of my exes, I was with him for 4 years. He shows up in like 4 stories. He's part of 2 stories, but he's in the background of other stories. Just to give you the lay of the land of what's happening in the story.
Exclusive. Drop that when you read the book, go message her to see if you caught all 4 of his appearances in the story.
Well, it's funny. The last person to come in, she's actually met that ex. Because we've hung out for a very long time throughout the years.
You can't be giving clues.
I know that was a mistake. Oops, my bad. Oopsie. But he knows about it too. He knows about the main story. He doesn't know. He knows the second story exists. He hasn't read it. He read the other.
Okay. So, The Day I Woke Up. That's one of the stories that you said was your favorite out of the book.
My favorite, or one of the ones that were most important to discuss?
I think I asked you your favorite, and that was the one that you said.
Yeah, I hate reading it, but continue.
So, I don't want to tell what the story is about, but
you can.
Okay,
There's a lot of
so
stories in that book. They won't remember this,
well,
or
that was the most important. So the day I woke up, just give us a exclusive story about that particular story.
so that's the hardest story probably in the whole book. I met this wonderful gentleman
When you say
who was,
hardest, what do you mean? Sorry.
huh?
When you say hardest, what do you mean?
Um, a hard moment in my life and a hard story for me to read.
Okay.
Because it was a hard moment in my life. So I met this wonderful gentleman who was a hero, and it's a part of my lifetime that I don't actually talk about. Is when I was really partying hard. And when I say partying hard, that just means I was clubbing a lot. There may have been some drinks, but I wasn't like, I'm the person who, I'm the person who closed clubs. No, no lie. If I go to the club, I'm leaving the club when it's over. And when they bringing the lights up, that's what I was doing. But I wasn't like doing other stuff. I've never used other substances or any of that. So it's not crazy partying. But I have no problems dancing until they're like, hello, it's 4.
Yeah.
Get out of the
Yeah.
club.
I
So,
was like that too back in the day.
so I was like, that's partially why my arthritis is as bad as it is, because I definitely wore down the cartilage in my knees dancing as much as I did back in them days. But so I was partying really hard then. I was in school full time. I think I was in school full time. I was working full time. I was in school part time. I was working full time. I was still freelancing, and I started hanging out with this group of people, and we were partying a whole heck of a lot. We had a lot of fun. We had a whole heck of a lot of fun. But like it was messy. The group was messy. There was some messy stuff happening, and I ended up getting together with a gentleman in the group who was my hero and also the worst person I've ever dated. So, and it's crazy because I don't know if I told you this.
Shout out to him.
Huh?
I said shout out to him because he's on blast right now. You know who he is.
Well, Casualty of Love, that my second book, it was all my Me Too story. So I wrote Casualty of Love to answer to all the Me Too's I was hearing before Me Too blew up to what it was. Like I wrote that book, and then you could check the release date before Alyssa Milano actually said everyone do Me Too. So it was because I was hearing all the stories about sexual assault. So I wrote this book to really expose my experience with sexual assault, with being raped, and my brother had told me I should write the whole story of me and him, and I couldn't really do that in a book. So I ended up writing, like the first poem in that book is how I met my rapist, and then there's other stories about other moments. It's called a poetic journey from butterflies to broken and back. So you do the heartbreak, you do the good stuff, you do all that stuff, right? And then it all goes wrong and all that other stuff. So when I sat down and looked at Casualty of Love, there were more poems about this dude and the day I woke up than actually the rapist. So that tells, like when I sit down and when I read that book and go, who's that about? Who's that about? Who's that about? There's definitely more about the dude and the day I woke up. So that's how detrimental that man was.
Than the
rapist. And so that's how like detrimental this man was to my mental ability. So I will say one of the worst best lines, and it's in the book, but when I hit on him, because I didn't know how dangerous he was, when I hit on him, I just said something sly, because I don't really approach men. I really let men come find me if that's what's gonna happen. But every now and then I grow a pair and I approach. So I approached him saying something on the phone. He goes, Kalima, are you hitting on me? And I said, well, yeah. And that was the end of the conversation. He didn't say anything else after that moment. We just talked about other stuff. A couple of days later, completely inebriated, we were on the phone again. He goes, oh, you just too brainy. Oh goodness. He said, I need a superficial hoe. That's how he told me he wasn't interested in me. And then I ended up,
I said, you kept going.
I didn't know I stopped. I was like, I had some fingers right here. You can imagine what's not pointed up at that moment. So I was ready. And I was done, but we were still friends because we were still part of this clique and we were still hanging out or whatever. But I was over it. I was like, cool. You want a superficial hoe? You don't think I'm sexy? Or like, it was all this other stuff underlining that. Anyway, so I ended up also simultaneously performing again. And because I have stopped performing poetry off and on for years. And so I was getting into the erotic poetry scene. And you know how you just met Mo Beasley. So Mo Beasley was giving me a space on his stage. And like Mo Beasley, urban erotic is like a big deal. Like, I don't even know how I got there. I think I was following a friend who was a burlesque dancer. And that's how I ended up in the sphere of those people. Either way, I performed this poem, My Deepest Desire, To Be Wanted. And that's like my signature erotic poem that's like messes with your head. I even read it recently to him. And they're like, yo, that's like that epic poem. That's that epic poem that does. I'm like, it's an epic poem? What? So anyway, so I read this poem. I normally, if you let me be, I'm in sweatshirt, jeans, and boots. Like, that's my look. Where I got the blazer, some t-shirt, jeans, and boots. Like, that's my happy place in how I look. But I can dress up. I can drop a cleavage a little bit and do a little thing. And so I was actually I was in some real cute attire. Peekaboo shirt, red. I had some cute pants. I had red heels. I don't wear heels, but I had my red heels on. I was looking lovely. And so somebody from the group was like, oh, Kalima is sexy. And then so we all decided to go out to a bar after the show. We all go. I danced with this other guy the whole time, grinding up with him. I wanted a break, but no one would give me a break from this dude. So I danced with this other dude this whole time, just stranger in the club. And then it was that night. It was me performing erotic poetry and me looking how I looked that he paid attention to me. And that was a night that he was like, oh, maybe she is what I want. And I wish that night never happened. Because he was so, what I said was that he was so verbally abusive. When I left that relationship, I thought he was just verbally abusive. And when I look at it in hindsight, verbally abusive is not what that was. It is what it was, but it's not what it was. And it was just very manipulative. Because what I didn't know, what I didn't have words for is really, like, we would say somebody's a narcissist. We're throwing it all over the place right now about Derek Jackson, and I may not be wrong, but I'm not saying he is or isn't, right? But we throw that word around anytime we want to when somebody seems to be about themselves. But we don't really have a true understanding of what that word means. Most of us don't. And so I didn't know it until I had been in therapy for a while, and my therapist made me sit down and look at my history of dating. And I seem to date a same person. I tend to be a great victim for narcissists. And because they sniff out the one thing wrong with me, and I'm like, they paid attention to me. And so he spent a lot of time totally chipping away at who I was, making me feel like nothing, manipulating me so well that I knew what he was doing. And I'd be like, I know what you're doing. I'm not going to do it. You're not going to win. And I'm going to do exactly what he wanted. So it was a whole, like, horrible moment. This is a year of stuff of him playing with me. And then I found out he was sleeping with a mutual friend. And that was the end for me. That's when I was like, we not an item. We were never a relationship or a couple. But that was the thing. Like, we knew a lot of people the same, but there were so many women out there. He could have been sleeping with anybody on this planet and would have owed me nothing. But he chose the person that was my friend, who was the closest friend to me. Of that group. And that's when I was like, cool, great, thank you, exit. And so I got rid of him at that point. But he did a lot of, like, manipulative, and I think I disassociated a lot of his stuff, so I can't really remember a lot of what he said as insults, but I just knew he was wearing me down. And it's funny because Tyra Banks, years ago, remember when Tyra Banks had her talk show? So Tyra Banks on her talk show was talking about how vile a man was that she had dated, and how he was saying stuff in front of her that she was picking up but didn't know how to take, or something like that. And it triggered also what he had done to me. We were all like this, we were on Meetup. So because of Meetup, you have the chat feature and you have the in-person feature. So on the chat post, because our group was live, we was on that chat 9 to 5, and it was in person 6 to 1. Like, we was crazy, going hard. And so he wrote in the chat, they were asking about, like, what kind of partner do you want or whatever. He was like, look, if I don't find her attractive, I'm going to make her be who I want. and then I'm gonna get rid of her. And nobody knew about us, but I saw that and I knew it was to me, because that's what he was doing. That's what he was doing to me the whole time. He was making me that superficial hoe that he claimed I wasn't.
Wow.
Because I wasn't attractive to him.
So the day that you woke up was the day that
I
you
found
realized.
out. There was the day I found out he was sleeping with he had slept with a mutual friend.
Wow. And the day that you woke up is also kind of a metaphor for the day that you woke up and realized the manipulation and things that were happening with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, it made everything make sense. I knew something was wrong. I didn't have words for what he was doing. I had no concept. I mean, we didn't have words. We didn't have words back then. Like, everything now is different. How we define rape is so different than how we did 10 years ago, right? How we define just almost anything is different. So we didn't have the terms stealthing back then. And depending, if you're in the UK, stealthing is actually considered a form of rape. And stealthing, if you don't know, is the removal of the condom without somebody knowing.
Oh, I didn't even know that term. Okay.
What do you think he was doing to me? So that said, there's all of that was happening, but we didn't have words. So how was I supposed to be able to say? And it's a long pattern. People have been doing it forever, but we weren't saying the word. We weren't sharing the word. So there was no way for a victim to easily be going, that's what this was. I can name it now.
Yeah.
And so having no words for those things, it took years for me to realize what he was doing. It took years for me to no longer disassociate and disconnect from what was happening, to really replay moments to go, holy crap, that's what he was doing. And so it took years to wake up from out of what he did and the way he manipulated me. But that was the moment the spell, at least between us, was broken. That was the moment that I was like, cool, what you never gonna do again is this. And we've never communicated again. We've run into each other on social media, on dating sites once or twice. I block him every time he's ever said anything to me. I don't know if he's alive or dead. I don't care. I don't ever want to interact again.
So, like, when we got on this topic, I felt like Oprah, like I had an exclusive, just like, hold on, rape? Like, wait, I didn't know what the chapter was about because I haven't gotten that far in the book. So I was like,
gave you a lot of the chapter, but I gave you present.
we're not laughing anymore. I'm not still laughing.
I gave you the distant version. That version brings you into the moment a little bit more. But it was a bad relationship. It was terrible. He's a terrible human being. But now that I understand narcissism, how it works, and the different techniques that they use, I'm just
now, okay, this just makes me think, would you say your book is a self-help book?
No. But it is.
Can't be you. I knew you was gonna say, but it is. Okay, so in some of the stories, do you also provide information on how you actually are still laughing? How you can actually?
I mean, the way that story ends is, and I explain, like, I don't know, this isn't a happy story. Like, at the end, I'm just like, ain't a happy story. But this is why, and what I did was unnecessary in how I ended it with him, which I'm not going to tell you. You can find that out in the story. It's such an unnecessary end to our story, but it was a thing that gave me power back in that moment. And so I just say that, like, that's what I needed to do to get my power back. And I left him completely unaware of how things were going to end. He could have probably guessed it, but I took my power back how I could in that moment. So
is your approach usable for others that may be in that situation?
I hint at, so look, as everyone will say, you have to be a therapist to technically diagnose a narcissist, right? That said, if you see someone having really clear narcissistic behaviors, the only way you can deal with them is to cut them off. That's actually the only answer. You have to cut them off. And you have to cut them off because they will manipulate you no matter what. You either have to draw a hard line that they cannot cross, which I've had to do with a different one in my life, because I can't get rid of that person yet. but the other people, you gotta snip and it just disappear. And so for both of your sakes. So I say
that,
that. I do offer that.
that's easier done at the beginning than it is after someone has chipped away
It
at
is,
you.
but it is. But so like here's the thing. The therapist who's in the last story, the one good thing she gave me was showing me narcissism in a way that in which I can identify it. So I'm not great always with it, right? But I am a great victim to narcissists, like I said, starting this, because of just so much in how I am designed. The only thing I can really do is get rid of them faster. But now I know the clues and signs. But once you were clear, because not everyone's a narcissist, not everyone is malicious or coming after you, not everyone is terrible, like you may just you have to fill it out, you have to test them out, you have to figure it out. So you may have to spend some time, because the narcissist will play you really well before they start showing their real side. So unless you can start sniffing them out faster, you're going to be caught in. The thing is that once you're aware, bounce.
Got you. So this still laughing title is kind of contrary to the contents of
I mean, that's
the
why,
book.
before you even say the next thing, can we just spend a second on the cover? I know that may or may not be a question, but just let's acknowledge that there's crying, there's shock, there's anger, there's a rolling of eyes, like all of this. Like if there was a longer title to this book, it would be, despite it all, I'm still laughing.
Got you. Okay, so the title and the aesthetic of the book really implies happiness, but that word still is very important, and that is the part that, if you don't catch it, that's the creative part. The still, that's a very powerful word, still, which means in spite of, it kind of despite, like you said, I'm still laughing. And knowing you like I do, I would never believe some of the things that you have been through. And you still, even when you were just talking to it, and I think now I'm connecting it to, I don't cry, I write. Because it's like, when I was just in the rape came out, and I'm like, okay, is Yara about to go into something and she's going to cry live on my feed? I feel like I got an exclusive. But I was like, now I get it. And I believe firmly in the fact that there's power in writing and expressing and releasing things out that can do more than tears can do for you, and I think it's some type of power that you have in releasing a book and with sharing the painful stuff in a book. Would you agree? Did you feel?
I'm going to answer you in a second. I have a slight emergency, so give me 2 seconds. 2 seconds.
Okay. She's laughing in an emergency. Still laughing. Okay. So in this time while she has an emergency, I'm just going to reiterate.
Reiterate the question too for me, please. That's what got me in trouble. I accidentally overfilled my cup and it was spilling over, but my cup is right next to my computer. So it was like, stop the running of liquid before it gets to the new computer.
Did you took care of it that fast?
I just had to get some paper towels. I think we're good. I think I've gotten enough.
Okay. So the tea that she just spilled came from Daintea. DAINTEA Co. You can find the tea online at our store, Tony Inc. But instead of coming with bags, it comes with tubes so that you can mix and match the tea.
It comes with bags too.
Oh, it comes with the bags too, so you can put the tea in the bag. But if you're a real tea drinker, you may have an infuser where you can actually just, fill the infuser and it's made out of metal, so it's recyclable, or you have the cup that infuses. So you can actually mix and match tea to your taste. so you don't have to have the blends and the little sticks and the little shavings off of the leaf, that comes in bags. You can actually get whole leaf tea, quality tea, and mix them to your taste. So go check them out. And
so what was that question again? Help me out.
So the question was, do you feel that in writing these stories, there was a certain power that you have over the situation, rather than, because still laughing implies that, there's a, first of all, laughing is a certain, expression that is happy, or it could be of pain. You could be laughing at the irony of something that was hurtful, and then saying still is the power. And I would say, in order to say I'm still laughing, there is a certain therapy that occurs there, whether it's from a particular structural therapy or it's therapy that you do yourself. And I believe in your comment or your phrase, I don't cry, I write, there is a certain therapy in that process that gives you a power over situations rather than succumbing to those situations. So I am asking, did you feel power over those situations when you write them? Actually, not even just that, even in your poetry, when you're writing these things about different topics that are hurtful, that are harmful, that are, people are dying, people are getting raped, people are hurting. And when you write these and you put them out there in the world for others to read, are you sharing that power? Which goes back to my other question, which is this a self-help book? And by them actually reading the way that you actually therapeutically deal with your traumas, are they also attaching to it and then have a similar way of actually, overcoming that?
Man, you just laid a whole question on me. So thank you, Jasmine, for the compliments. Yeah, just talking about my earrings, not yours. Get over it.
I thought she was talking about mine. Sorry.
No, not yours. So I think I don't know that I felt power over the stories or moments. And in some ways, there's some weakness in it, because I told the stories the way they need to be told for this book. Because that's what this book was sort of asking for. There's a different way to tell these stories, and not as victorious, not as tongue-in-cheek, maybe. And so it made me kind of in writing it, it actually in some ways re-victimized me or re-silenced me, because I was still saying it in a way that was tailored and not just like, this is what happened. But I'm proud of the book, so don't think I'm like, I didn't say what needs to be said. But like, is there power? I think there's just well, I did overcome, and I'm here. So in the end, I'm here. Those things didn't necessarily break me. They influence me, and I'm aware of those influences, good or bad. And so there's some power in that ability. I self-help feels very, and I questioned when I wrote it, and I had my editor most definitely look at it to make sure it wasn't getting too preachy on a self-help note, because I didn't want to do that. I don't have an answer, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have an answer and be lying to you about what the right choice is, right? Like, again,
my question is, why do you write? The stories can be told to people. Why write them for other people to read them?
Well, I mean, I think like I said, it's for people to know who I am, because you don't get to know who the writer is. Most like if you see a poet, you pick up what you think from the poem, but you don't get to actually know anything about them. You don't get to know what's influencing their perspective, that's colored their worldview, or any of that. So it's partially so that you get to know me in a way that you can't ever figure out from my poetry. But two, it is a way to like. I mean, you can say that all my stuff is self-help, but it's not. It's just it's supposed to be encouraging. Self-help is like, here's the key to how you get there. And I don't give you a key. I don't have the key, right? Like I am happy that, and I do say in the story that we talked about, the day I woke up, I do say that if you're dealing with a narcissist, this is how you get out. Absolutely, I do say that, but I'm not a therapist, right? I can't speak to any of it. And if you're in a bad situation, then your life may be threatened in a way that mine wasn't. So I can't even say that I have good advice. So don't take it like I'm giving you advice or I'm a how to heal person. This is how one person coped with a series of incidences. And the way that I cope is laughter. But it's still not the right, I don't know that it's the right answer, because I learned to laugh because I was not allowed to show any other emotion. So like, I got that same lesson. Like, so I tell people this, right? And this is not in the book, but it's all ties to why I laugh. And I hinted it a little bit in the book. But like, you know how boys are told you man up, don't cry.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was told when I was a child. And I wasn't told man up, but I was told that my tears pissed him off. And therefore I better not cry if I didn't want to get beaten. So it wasn't, I'm going to give you something to cry about. It was a very different angle to that statement and that question, or that statement of that demand from a small child that she never expressed a negative emotion because it upset him. And so that's the lesson I had as a child. So I learned not to cry. I learned not to show those emotions. It took years of therapy for me to cry. And even still, I'm better at not crying than I am at crying. And so and that's why I don't cry right, because when I couldn't have places in which to express anything, I ran to my diary. And all the things that I wanted to say and all the feelings that I needed to get out landed on that page as a 7-year-old. And I still have that diary where I said, I wish for certain things that I probably shouldn't say here. Maybe I could have, but whatever, right? Like, so I learned to laugh. And I learned to smile, and I learned to do the stone face so that I could survive. And so my stone face is wicked. I don't have an angry bee face. I have just a straight, you don't know.
I know that face. Mm-hmm.
Don't tell you nothing. Don't tell you nothing, really. And this is the face that people get at work all day.
Mm-hmm.
And I get told, I don't know how you feel. Mm-hmm. That's exactly why you get this face. So you don't know how I feel. You don't know if I'm happy. You don't know if I'm angry. You don't know if I'm coming after you, or if I'm just sitting here chilling. Like none of that you need to know. And so it's a survival method because I grew up in such a toxic house that's what I learned how to survive was that. And so my therapist, I still tell him, I've been with this man for almost 2 years, or at least a year and a half. I think it's 2 years now. And he's like, well, you say you're upset, but you're smiling. And I said, how many times have I told you, don't read this. Listen to what I'm telling you. Because what I'm telling you is, I'm pissed all the way off right now.
I remember that.
This face looks exactly the same as me laughing hysterically, right? Because that's the only way I know how to make my muscles move. And so I don't know that I have the answer as to how to get through things, but I offer that you can get through things. You can get through sexual assault. You can get through verbal abuse. You can get through wanting to throw yourself in front of a train or take a bottle of sleeping pills. Like you can get through I don't actually talk about wanting to jump in front of a train, but it is part of one of the stories in my real life. I don't mention it in the story itself, but like you can get through those moments. And that's all I can offer. I can't offer self-help. I can't tell you how to get through those moments. I can just tell you can get through those moments.
That's the very essence of self-help to me. I mean, I don't know what the official term, but there's a certain, I guess, advice that comes from hearing someone else's story is an inherent advice that it's the same thing as the superhero syndrome, I guess you can say. Oh, if Superman can do it, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. Although it is, although it is, you know, fiction, you still, when you're conditioned in looking at that, you are conditioned to say, oh, when bad things happen in my, I'm going to, treat them like Superman did Lex Luthor, So there is an inherent, advice or conditioning that comes in that. So what I'm trying to get to is your book is not, because what you just told me is that your book is just just stories about you. But that's not why your title, and nothing that I got from just the little bit that I've read is just simple stories. It is accounts of things that have happened to you, but the overall theme, because you could just say, oh, the chronicles of the life, day,
I've had a lot of titles for this book before we got to Still Laughing.
But I think Still Laughing is powerful, and I think it's more about the stories that happen, but still kind of like still I'm here type of thing. I'm still here, and it's not a fake laughing. It's I have learned to overcome these things through laughter, but my laughter is genuine. It's not that you have used laughing to kind of hide the pain. You've actually learned that laughter is something that it can be a tool, but it's also an expression. And just to kind of my point here, I just want to play the laughter that's
this is so wrong of you.
So
you play so dirty.
So with such a genial laugh, I just see more in this book, not just from your laughter, but from the contents of the book that really is telling people to, laughter can be on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not that it's not like you're actually laughing as your people are actually like yelling at you or anything like that. That's not it. But it's actually laughter at the other end, which is kind of like saying there is sun after the clouds, mm-hmm. and still laughing. I think is kind of it's still, you can laugh. Still laughing. I'm still laughing. I'm still here. So those are I just wanted to kind of go into what the purpose. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong. That's my interpretation of what I know so far.
Yeah, I mean, that is the point. It is to say that at the end of it all, you can find victory, even in really painful moments, whether it's physically. Because I laugh my way through injury. That's what I do. Like, I don't know if it's shock. One time it was shock, hence the story. But other times, it's just literally like, you gotta laugh at stuff. You just gotta laugh. Like, you gotta, like, it's already bad. It's already bad. Why make it worse? Why not just like lighten it, add a little levity to like the bad? Like, let's just bring it up a little bit. So that's my feeling. It's like, why make bad moments worse? Let's look at in a bad moment, let's laugh through it just to make it a little better. And then when you've had bad moments that you can't just laugh at, then you can still find victory in it. Like, I didn't write in this book at all about the rape because I could not traumatize myself that many times rereading it to edit and all that other stuff. That was not going to happen. And that's also not for everybody to consume. It's just not. But I mention it because I have to talk about it in the story with the day I woke up. So it comes up in there. It comes up with the therapist story. But like, and it's also, I don't know that I'm laughing about that. Like, I don't know that there's victory to be had because I have a book out of it, because I have a voice out of it, because I can speak for others. So there's still victory from even some of the worst moments of my life, right? Like if you make it, like, just like if you are here today, given everything we all went through in the last year, if you weren't just born in the last few days, but you've been here, if you've been alive more than, 500 days, give it a little bit more. If you've been alive more than 600, 1,200 days, whatever that is, you are surviving something. You're here. You made it. So then what have you done in the last 360, 365, the last 370 to go, well, how am I made it. So where's the victory here? What did I get from this? And so even when there's bad moments, you can find victory everywhere. And that's what I try to challenge people to do. At least I hope that people get out of it. There's victory somewhere. That's why I tell the story the day I woke up. It is not a happy story. The friends who originally read the original version, like, I just wanted you to leave. I just wanted it to be over. Like I was like, is it over? Is she getting out of it? Is it? I just had that immediate response to it. But the fact is like they're still, but I'm here. And you know what's not here? Him. And so I'm clearly doing better because he ain't in my life. So there's ways to make victory out of like you make lemonade. That's what my laugh is. Like, and I challenge everyone that tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or a couple of tomorrows from now, you will be able to go, I survived that. And if that's all you do, then that's where you find victory.
There was a lot there. I think that's your next book. I think you have to take your voice, because you, like, since you've been talking, you've talked about rape, talked about self-esteem, you've talked about, and I know personally loss, death and stuff like that. And you're still such a happy person to be around. And I know a lot of people that lost things. I know a lot of people that, maybe lost a job or maybe, they had the experience with rape and it just changed their whole demeanor. You can actually tell that they actually carry the weight of those experiences on them. And it is something that I know we talk about it and you talk casually about it, but it never seems like the weight of the situation actually falls on your soul or spirit. Like that laughter is kind of like a protective shield, or it's that technique, or it's maybe therapy. I know therapy has a lot to do with it as well too. But it is something that I acknowledge is something that is distinct to you that I haven't seen in others. And I think it is something that you should transfer to others. And I think the book is a start. If you didn't actually go the self-help route through it, I think it's a setup for something bigger to let people understand how they can also, do what you do, because you're able to take all of that and still exist happily and still exist with laughter. Sorry, it didn't come. It was supposed to be right on time. With laughter. So, and I think it's important for people to understand laughter in what it symbolically means in your story and what it also means in their life. I want to ask a little bit some more questions. I know we got on a kind of a.
I'm here. I'm yours until you kick me off.
Let me see here.
Hey,
Okay.
Ryan.
Hey, Ryan. Okay, so now your book I heard, actually this was when I didn't have the book. Okay, oh, actually, no, this is what I was I was saying. Your book has tea in it, with the stories. So, did including these personal stories and having people potentially have the availability to read your memoir and feel some way influence how you wrote the book or censored certain topics? I know that I caught on to one or two from just the first chapter because I was like, nah. you set some people. Never mind. I'm not gonna go into that. But did it influence your writing? I know you actually did say you kind of censored it, as in the writing style. You were not just out. Some things got cut because it was kind of maybe too personal. So did knowing that people were going to be able to read this, did you like? I know you said you changed your names as well, but it also seems like you kind of kept some remnants of the names just so that they know that you know that they are in there still.
So here's the thing with the names. There's some people who are straight made up names. There's some naming conventions that match the ethnicity of their name or the person themselves. It's like one
Okay.
person in the story is Haitian. So instead of using her real name, I just use another Haitian female name.
Okay.
There's some people who, my family is all middle names. They're all actual real names, but they're not the names that people know them for.
Oh,
So,
clever.
so like, one cousin unfortunately uses in our family her middle name, and um in work uses her first name. So I had no name to use for her. So I think I used the name her niece uses for her. But
Uh,
everyone else is like so like my family is grounded in their real names. But it's there unless you know their middle names or you know their other names, I'm going to beat you.
I did not mean to do that. Sorry.
um, so unless you know them, you don't know them. There's another person whose middle name I'm using because my ex, I'm using his middle name, but he knew that and he said he was fine with it. So that's fine. So some people, the worst stories, people know. They know that the story was written. They know that they're in it. There's only one person who can't defend themselves because they're not alive anymore.
And
Um,
that was the
no,
first story.
no, actually, so there may be some more people who can't defend
Oh, I was
themselves.
like, that
No,
was
there's a
definitely.
story about friendships that fall apart and that person can't defend themselves.
Mm.
Um, and I don't really care. That they can't.
What? God.
So I don't use their name either, but like somebody in every story where this pointed a bad person minus the day I woke up because I disconnected myself from most people from that time period. So the players in that story aren't around. But most people from some part of those stories know the story's been written and they've probably read it. One story, I had to go to my ex, and not the same ex, but I had to go to him and let him read it because I was afraid I was outing him too much. And I
Mhm.
wanted his permission. He is not a straight man. There's details in there that are clear. There's things that I blur purposefully because he and I know what my real issue with him was. And I don't want to say it in the book because then I don't want to out him too much should people pick up as him. So
Mhm.
I gave him the chapter to see if it still hints at it hints at the problem, but it doesn't say the real issues. And so he read it to know. And we actually had lunch the other day, and still had a lot of healing conversation around our really short-lived, long time ago relationship. But it was such a rippling effect of an impact of that relationship, right? So the friends that I fell out with, I was getting anxious when the book was about to drop. That I did go back to the one friend that I'm really friends with, and she gave it to the rest of the group. And so they all read it and they said, good luck with it. And this is actually the first time I've ever gotten my story in front of the person in which the real falling out was with. because it was such a, rightly so, she should never be my friend again. That's cool. I'm not going to knock that. You know, I'm going to own my part of what led to that issue. But either way, I didn't want her to, like, all their names are changed. But everybody who's ever been around me for several years knows these players. Because our friendship was for almost 2 decades. So if you were around me as a kid, you know who the players are. You can figure it out really quickly. So I wanted to make sure they were aware that it happened. So most people know it's about them. Most people know the stories. And most people are okay with how I said it. Because part of the thing is the stories are never about those people. They're really about how I survived these moments. And how I navigated these moments and why these moments ever happened in the first place. So I think because I took that angle always, they couldn't be so upset with what I write. The person who could be the maddest to me is my father. But if you meet him, the first thing he'll tell you, he's a recovering alcoholic. So I don't really think he's going to have an issue with the way I portray him in the book, even though I don't talk about my family purposefully. I don't talk about my immediate family but so much of other than being a backdrop on purpose. But like, I have to say that he was a raging drunk growing up because that feeds all these other issues I end up having, all these relationships I end up having, or why the relationships were colored the way they were. All come back to that, right? So
you filtered that out?
Huh?
You edited that out, or you filtered that out?
But they're all very brief. So like, I will say I had this perspective because in my house it was bad. That's all you're gonna get. You're not gonna get a story about my house being bad. But you'll get the line that'll give you the backstory that you need to understand why I looked at things the way I did.
Got you. What you're saying.
I was anxious, and even still, I don't say anything mean about anyone. I'm not that person, and I've grown up to know how to say stuff about saying stuff. Again, product of a bad house. You learn real quick how to turn your tongue so that you say things two-sided. And so I didn't have to try to hide people's stories. I didn't have to try to whatever, but I did go to them when I finally started feeling a way so that they were not surprised. So I wrote it in a way that it's about me. It's not about them. And I'm not lying about anything I say in it. I offer a lot of grace in the story where I could have been like, yo, that person, you know, I could have told the story that way, but I also have always, like, the villain in my book, the biggest villain in the book, not the bad guy, the one who's not here to tell it. If you ask me, if we were sitting out having, like, we weren't here, I'd be like, yeah, that's my enemy. That's the one enemy I've ever had in life.
Wow.
And I don't know why we were enemies, but we was enemies. And then I say, I may use some colorful language around this person, right? He was Cancer. And I don't say that explicitly in the book, but I always, once I was able to walk away from the moment, I was able to call him Cancer. And I call him Cancer for this reason. If you survive cancer, your perspective on life is never the same and usually better. Because now you've come close to death and you now have a really great appreciation for life. But you ain't want cancer. You didn't want to deal with cancer. And you mad you had to go through it. We didn't like each other. He ruined my life in many ways, but what he did was free me. And so I'm gonna be grateful for him always.
Wow. That's a powerful statement there. To call somebody Cancer. Like that's a way that you can, you can preach that.
But it's true. Like, do you know a cancer survivor who has not been like, I survived. Life is like, they appreciate that they are here.
Yeah.
And he ruined so much in my life, but I could not be the person you see right now, Tony. Like me, this person would have never existed had he not messed up my life. And so I'm grateful because I pretty much think I'm dope. So,
Yeah. So thank you to him. I guess Mr. Cancer is his name. Oh, never mind. I was about to do the laughing thing, but I don't think that was appropriate. I just realized you said that he was not here to defend himself. Okay, So, the next thing, laugh through it all, is kind of the quote that is going with this book. I think it's on the back. Laugh through it all. I know there are many people, especially during COVID, and that are, yeah, I don't know what it's backwards, but laugh. Oh, that is what it says. Laugh through it all. Okay. I know there are many people, especially during COVID, that have experienced hard times, loss, death, and relationship changes. And so, how would you say they go through it, laughing through it all?
I mean, we're going to take laugh metaphorically speaking. So again, if you are here, then you are surviving. And so you got to find those, you got to count those blessings. It may not sound like a lot, but you know what? Today you probably had breakfast. You may have had lunch. You may or may not have made it to work. You may or may not felt that pain, but that pain meant that you still felt something. So you get to sort of like, okay, this is where we are. Like, this is the thing that I say a lot. I have a lot of different random pains tied to history of injury. But like, I wake up, I go, okay, that's hurting today. That hurts. I'm gonna limp a little bit. Cool. That other thing is, oh, I can't lift this today. Okay, cool. So that's where we are. And I continue on. Like, now that I've taken the survey of what isn't hurting, I was like, oh, these fingers are numb. Like, I don't even say it in the story. These fingers are numb. I do mention it vaguely. These fingers, I have full range, but when it's flaring, these fingers are numb. And these two are numb because I wore wrist weight wrong when I was working out. A wrist weight pulled on my arm incorrectly, hurt my elbow, and the nerve that runs straight through there comes straight through your elbow. So
Wow.
there's times where like they don't have the same feeling as the rest of the fingers, you know? So like there's these little things, but when that happens, maybe today's not the day to carry a lot with my right arm, you know? Tomorrow maybe, today is not. You know, my ankle hurts today. For some reason, it's aggravated. It must be inflamed. Ace bandage, or walk slow, or whatever. Cool, change how you walk. Make sure you got your orthotic in it. You know, so like you that's what, but you still count it and you still go. You don't stop. And so we are in a horrible situation. And this has not been a crystal stair for me. This has not been a wonderful time. It has not been easy. There's been a lot of emotions. I lost my godfather, and that messed me up for a couple of months, not being able to say goodbye to that man. And the amount of love I had for him, or have for him, the amount of, so he's not just my godfather, he's my granduncle. So the amount of like, I'm so glad I saw him in January before all of this happened. And when I saw him in January, I kept taking pictures of him because I knew I probably wasn't going to see him again. Something said, because he aged so much in the time since I saw him last, something in my brain said, just enjoy every moment, soak up these moments. So I recorded his voice during a meal that we had. We had these moments where I just was recording him. We're taking pictures with him. I took pictures of him on his porch waving goodbye. So that's the last memory I have of him. And so that's the last time I ever saw him, was us driving away. That was a little slightly emotional moment.
I'm waiting for. I'm trying to get one.
I was like, I heard my voice change. I was controlling that.
It is okay. Okay.
So that was a hard moment when he was gone, and it took me, and it was like right before my birthday, so it took me months to really be somewhat grounded and okay that he's not here. But at least I had that moment with him. I'm glad I got to North Carolina when I did before, and I saw him in good health. So it wasn't like he was sick one day, they took him to the hospital, came home, told him it wasn't COVID, and he wasn't here the next day. So we've all had these moments. But then I think of his laughter. I think of my laughter. And there's two men in this planet that my laughter is from. My godfather and my father. And the two of them could shake a daggone house with the belly laughing. It just erupted in a way And when I was a kid, I'd be like, oh, they up to it again. I didn't know I was going to inherit it. I didn't know I'd have the higher pitched version of it, but I do. And so multiple times in the book, I say, it's my inheritance. It is my inheritance. And so I can think about him. I can think about his comments, his comedy sense, his thought process. I quote him so much more. I was talking about him yesterday in something. I don't know who I was talking to, but I was telling them about him and how we were talking about the South and coming up here and a whole, like, so I'm telling his legacy. So like we lost the freedom from our homes. We lost a lot of physical ability. Because I huff and puff in ways now that I wasn't huff and puffing before this happened. We lost a bit of our sanity. We lost friends. We lost human contact. Like can I tell you the best thing that happened yesterday when I saw, not yesterday, on Wednesday when I saw my ex? When we left, we hugged each other. And he was like, I know you're not getting one of these. And we stood there hugging each other for so long. And it was like, oh my gosh, human. Like we stood on that corner for a good 2 to 3 minutes just hugging. And he's the one who said it. He was like, I know you're not getting this. I know you're not having access to this. So he just like kept holding me in a way that was like, oh, this is everything. So we lost so much during the pandemic, but you're here. So those things suck. And it's not, I'm not saying forget about it. I'm not saying ignore it. I'm not trying to say diminish what it was, but you are here. And so since you are here, don't give up on that. You know, like keep moving and count your blessings and laugh about the things that went crazy. Like I wrote that whole poem in our poetic student class about one of the first injuries I suffered while we were here. I tripped over a box by my door and I had like all back pain. I had to go to physical therapy after I went to my orthopedist, all online. But I had to do all of that because I really did injure myself a bit. But it's so hilarious, like writing a poem from the perspective of the box that tripped me and how it was just trying to let me know it was there. And it didn't mean to hurt me. And like, look at it, me killed the other box. Like I killed its friend. Like how am I not the one in trouble? Like, you know, you can make fun of these moments. You can find laughter in these moments or think about those people that we lost and when they made you laugh. Because that's the more important part, is what they gave you, not what you lost.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I think one of the things that has gotten me through this quarantine or has made it better is meeting you. Oh, did you feel that? I need the music. And to see how we have been able to be that for other people, you know, and help other people get through that. And the laughter that comes from, you know, even thinking about what we used to be versus what it's right now, you know, it helps to go through. Even like seeing memes, you know, that's looking back at something and laughing. But I think one of the things that we've learned is how to change our perspective on things and move past what the moments, you know, like you said, and there's laughter in that, the metaphoric laughter, the laughter that is a tool for you to get through it. The laughter that is a tool for you to rise above it, and the laughter that helps you cure what has inflicted pain into your life. Your book is I'm going to continue. I'm going to finish reading it, and I employ. What is it?
I'm mad because you left it over on Friday, so you can't even read it over the weekend. You got to read the PDF. That
is true, but I have the PDF up.
Yeah.
So I was reading enough to be able to have this conversation. And I from the start, I know that this book is 100% you, and 100% you means there's probably not an error in this whole book.
Well,
According
even
to
if there
the
is, as I told my friend who may still be watching, there are no typos. As I said, even if as I told my friend, I told about 3 people now, there are no typos. So even if there are, that's me telling you, there are no
you
typos.
hit your hand like a
That's
Jedi.
your business, not mine. You just didn't read that correctly.
I'm going to ask the last question, and then I'm going to have you read the last poem that you just wrote that's called Still Laughing. So the last question is, why should someone go out and get Still Laughing?
Because you love me and I'm the community poet. I hate you, you did it!
I got you. I got it.
That was so good!
So it's genuine. It matches exactly what you wrote. She has the same rhythm and pattern to it. Like,
Oh my gosh!
I got you. Good. I
So
got
mad at you.
you. And I told you what I was going to do, too. And I got it at the end.
So mad at you. Oh my goodness, my face hurts now.
So
You
what?
suck. So the reason why people should buy the book, because it is a story of endurance. It is a story of victory, even in the face of whatever it is. So I don't know your story. I don't know what you're going through, but I can offer a series of stories about identity, about physical injury, about betrayal, about heartbreak, about being a victim to somebody who's being malicious on purpose. So I cover a lot of moments that people experience, even if it's not the same exact story. So it is something that you may be able to relate to. And if you don't relate to it, and it's because I'm Black, then you need to read the book because you need to know what it means to be Black and not just this horrible sob story that you see on the news or the whatever. That's not, there's a lot of shades of Black. And so here's an offering of what that could look like other than what you may see or what you may typically have access to. But you should listen to it. The reason why I write is because what I say is important and it's representative for someone else and not just my story. So give it a chance, give it a look. It may change how you see something. It may help you feel better. It may just help you feel like, you know what, if she didn't drink that bottle of sleeping pills, maybe I don't have to either. And tomorrow I may just be laughing about it. That is a story in there.
Leave it right there. Now, can you please bless us? As some of you may know, she is actually a poet by nature, experience, and in depth. Although this book is not a poetry book, she blessed us and put some at the end so that corresponds with the actual memoir section of the book. So the hard copy, I believe, is the only one that actually has this poem that she is going to share with us right now. So again, I want her to read this and be listening, and then we'll close out.
I will just say you can pre-order now, but then I know this is what we'll say again later. But if you pre-order, I cannot pre-order the hardcover for you. So you have to wait until it's actually live. You have to actually buy it as a hardcover and not just pre-order it through me, because that's a whole story that we're not going to do. So the poem, Still Laughing, only available in the hardcover. When he viciously told baby me not to cry because tears angered him, I obligatorily found my laugh, only dropping tears when mouth corners ascended. But later, I was told it was too loud. It was embarrassing, attracted too much attention. So for love, I stopped. I stopped and watched love pass by. I almost stopped loving myself when another insisted I wasn't enough. But I was. And I laugh when I think of how and when I found myself, first saw myself. There I was. I was there, under sprouting locks and behind rectangular glasses, where the opinions and paradigms could no longer shape the reflection. I ceased appearing through refractions. I was no longer a fraction. Oh, the glee that rose out of the ashes of assault, abuse, and the bullying that had me stumbling and tripping. I took a trip down memory lane, followed elbow scars to surgical marks, and traced worry graves to smile lines. Found my humor sitting patiently, impatiently, waiting for the rest of me, and we laughed full-bellied. And while the concomitant sounds brought comfort to those in earshot, they would be shocked to know my laughter wasn't always gleeful, the noise not always joyful. It hid much, diffused and masked more. Sometimes it was nervous. Other times it was forced, like the will that was powered into me too. The laugh was always complicated, as was I. I apologized to the ligaments for the predicaments in which hard steps and knocks led us to. I reconciled with the abandoned tears, promising them their due time while reclaiming my long forgotten shine. As I heal wounds, I take stock of the journey before me while reviewing my history. I never thought when I heard two shake the room with laughter that I'd do the same. It's insane, the bad and good one unwittingly and unwillingly inherits. Was it the nature in our genes, or the inherent jubilation hidden between the moments where others burglarized my sanctity? I do not know, but I hope my saints cover me, hover over in the moments I forget who they helped me to be, for I am not who I was. I am not the small child whose emotional expression was murdered. I lay flowers at the grave of who others tried to bury, and I shower joy on the child who never lost her elation, celebration for the person she has become, that I have become. Though still struggling for comprehension of these contradictions, I found peace in the storm life tossed me in, and I laugh for the parts finally reconciled or that reconcile themselves with the uncertainty of what tomorrow holds. Knowing the past made them, us, me, bold. I laugh hysterically, maniacally, painfully, passionately, and freely. I learned to laugh back then. I laugh still. Hey, Shadina. She's one of like the dopest poets out there too, Shadina, right there. I'm just saying it.
Yeah. You were good. So I thank all of you who have attended this event and have stuck around. This is the book that we have spent the last 2 hours referring to, referencing, and talking about the content. It is a beautiful book. 2i Publishing also helped out with the cover, I must say. Can I say it? Am I allowed to say it?
I mean, yeah. So let's be real about this, because we didn't do this. I know we're almost done, but the artwork was commissioned by an artist named Antonio Clark. You can find him here on IG, called Antonio Clark Art. And so he did these pictures. Y'all actually voted for these pictures. There were 2 rounds of votes. You gave me the different emotions. No worries. I'm still glad you're here. Thank you, ma'am. So you voted on the different emotions. I changed the cover to this. This part is Antonio Clark. And then someone else said, well, where are you putting the title? And I was like, I don't know where I'm putting the title. Where do you think I put the title? And that person decided that he was going to put the title right here, that person. And then when we were ready and we knew the size, he made it the dopest cover ever. And so like it looks like a real book. Like I'm really hyped that it's a real book happening here, like with the quotes and stuff and the laugh through it all and the words and the design carried over. Like that's all that vision. So most definitely work with 2i Publishing. If you gotta go somewhere, there's a Simple product coming soon, which I will be part of. And this is like the first testimony to what Simple can do. What he did with this book cover, and he wouldn't let me get away with just the cover because he was like, "No, you can't make that look stupid." So he made me do the real font in there too. So the rest is me. Well, the rest is I should also give props to my editor, Dominique Lambright, who DML editing here on IG as well. She edited the book, and then I had a bunch of friends who also read through the process, whether before or after. They all get thanks and appreciation in the book. But this is so weird because it's so much bigger than me. It's such a community book in some ways because never in my last few books has the community come together to really get me.
Yo, she trying to come at the end.
That's okay. Shakina's new to my life, so I mean she's not new. She's pre-pandemic, so not as new as you. But there is a lot. Just the experiences I've had in life. Injury, physical injury, emotional injury, bad relationships, moments that I choose to find victory in. That's what you will find in this book. And
so this video will be posted on our page, so you can go back and watch
check it out too. But there's so much. This is the first time, and I'm going to like take a moment out of privilege. I know we've been doing this for a while, but to say thank you, because yes, you. I mean, thank him too, for sure, because this book, I couldn't have the gift of writing if it wasn't being divinely blessed to me, right? For sure. But thank you for the vision. Thank you, Tony, for the vision of making it look better. Thank you for the encouragement and the grooming you have done on the back end to make me get more noise around this book. I've never had a community come together around literal me in a way that has happened, and none of this would happen because of you. So I just want to take a moment to say thank you for this opportunity, for the help with this book, for the I want to say friendship, but we know it's more than friendship. You are an adopted brother now. This is what you are. So thank you for all of that and for speaking into me. Because between you and some actual, not saying you're not an important writer, but having some other important writers co-signing me lately have been all very humbling. And so this is still a side note, but still right on time and everything. Yesterday, you saw me message that we lost a giant in the poetry world. Craig Mums Grant left us yesterday, and he was poet on Oz. He's been on, so if you look up his IMDb, dude had DB. He's on he got mad credits, and so I loved him when he was on Oz. I was like, who is this dude? And I need to know who this is. And I saw him on a train once, and I just was so starstruck I couldn't even function. And so I couldn't even say anything to him. I just kept staring at him. And I went home and wrote a poem titled 3 Stops with Mums, because I knew who he was. And I was on the train in the same car with him for 3 stops. And I was like, this guy's in the Bronx, and this is the Mums, and this is what? So it's like, so I had another conversation with one of the event people here in New York. And what I said to that person is he's grieving mums too, because he had a different relationship with him. I was just Facebook friends with that man. I didn't get to know him, but the impact of what he's had on my life for the last 20 years, just in existing. It is so important that we tell people who are doing the daggone thing today that they matter. It's important that we say thank you to them. It is important that we celebrate the small, the big, all the successes. And so thank you, Tony, for being who you have been in my life this year. I would not have survived the pandemic the way that I have. I got more grades. I'm really tired, a little grumpy, way behind on stuff. So all of that's because of you. But so was half of the laughs. A lot of the joy that has happened this year, a lot of the growth has also come because of you. And you are a terrific poet, but you are a visionary, and you are making so much room and space for the rest of us trying to figure out what we're doing. You speak life to us in a way that most people don't. So I'm going to take this moment of point of privilege and say thank you, Tony, for that. There's proof. So I never have to say this to you again, because now you can go watch the recording anytime you forget. I'm sure I'll be mad at you tomorrow. I'm so sure I'll be mad at you tomorrow for something. So
you say that every time we got a recording. Okay,
I know, but like that's the only time you're gonna get proof of it, because there won't be proof later. You know what I'm gonna say to you when this is over? I'm gonna message you right after, be like, "Yo, Tony, do you know what you did?"
Right.
I come with this.
You're right. There's nothing to comment on now.
But no, I appreciate you and thank you.
From the bottom of my heart, it's all a privilege. I anybody that I encounter that I see winning, I see people that I saw at open mics and I see them winning, and I just like to think in my mind that my existence helped them, no matter if it was small or large, it helped them get to wherever they are winning. And that is my goal in life, as you have heard me say a lot. I am here to help create galaxies, and I don't want to create an empire where I'm ruling over everything. I want to have people out there self-sufficient, and because they have seen me build a galaxy, they can go off and use that same energy, because the universe is all about energy, matter, all that stuff. So they can take that energy and go and do their world, make their world, because they have a purpose here in their world. So I'm loving everything that you're doing. It's an honor to see, work with you, first of all, as we do things together, which everybody here that watches this, you get a sneak peek. We actually have a podcast coming out called Word to Words, and it's going to be hosted by me and Dara. So it's going to be amazing. We are in planning phases right now, and look for that in next month, a month and a half. So lots of things that we're doing. Poetics U as well. If you are a writer and you want to kind of expand your writing, be challenged, want to get out of writer's block, go to Poetics U, POETIXU on Instagram, and follow us. We have an open house coming up on April 10th, where you can actually find out everything about what we're doing this term, the courses that we're offering, and meet the professors. So we're growing that into an international platform that is like no other. So, and it's built off of passion for people and their creativity or their poetry. So please do go see that. Again, our event tonight is sponsored by a tea company called Dainty Company, and it's DAINTEACO on IG, and you can go and order your first tea kit, and it comes with five quality whole leaf teas that come in tubes rather than bags, where you can mix and match, and it's your delicious. And she's actually drinking some right now. She spilled the other cup, but it's so good. She made it up. But the other thing I want to say is, outside of the things that I have going on, please go and pre-order Dara's book. I have the privilege of having a copy, which is at work, but we're not going to go there. But it is a book that as soon as I started reading it, I was in her world.
Is that the picture?
Well, I'm being heartfelt. Okay, so
sorry.
So please go get her book and get the hardcover. If you actually want the full experience, you want to have something that you can stick on your bookshelf, and it just aligns with all of your other books by all the other people that you buy books from.
So you can get the hardcover April 13th.
Oh, sorry, yeah. April 13th, you're gonna get the hardcover.
Pre-order the paperback. But you pre-order the paperback, you get it signed by me. You get it on hardcover. You just gonna have to find me, and I'll sign it for you when we cross paths again. When this is all said and done.
So you get the hardcover. You don't get the signature, but you get a hardbound. You also get more content, and if you get the paperback, then you get a signature, signed personal note, and you also get a quicker. So go out. Is that correct? They get it quicker.
I don't know if it's getting there quicker.
Okay. Well,
that's a whole other conversation. But you pre-order it, you may get it at the same time after it release. I mean, it depends what the mail does.
Yeah. Okay. So please go and support her. She is a phenomenal person, and when you have this book, you can know that you are part of a galaxy that's about to go like it's about to stretch every direction. So she's not only this memoir, she also has 4 other books. What is that? 5?
3.
3 other books, and those are poetry books. So if you want to just be in her galaxy completely, then go and support her and get the whole collection. Just dive into the world of Dara. I think most of them.
You have all of them.
I have all of them now. So I am in the galaxy of Dara. So
all are available on my website.
So with that being said, if this whole 2 hours was not enough to get you to this should be enough to get you go onto her website. Yes, and order Still Laughing. If not for anything else, but for this laugh here. Yeah, that laugh. This.
My t-shirt.
It seems like it's getting louder. I don't know. It's only 2 seconds long, but it seems like she's laughing louder. So with that being said, this is all for this edition of Bounded Conversations. Every last Friday we have another one. Our next one is a friend of Dara's. Darren Lee is his name.
Oh yes.
A book called Poetry that's doing a lot of things in the poetry sales and industry right now. So you want to go out and get a copy of that, read it, and don't be misled by the title. I'm pretty sure you will enjoy what is inside of that book because we're poets.
You may want to be over 18 though. Just going to say.
You do want to be over 18. So we will have this event next month on the last Friday. I don't know what the date is, but just understand that we do this every Friday.
The 30th.
The 30th. There we go. So April 30th, we will have the same event with another author, and same time, 8 o'clock, and we will continue to do this. We have a lineup of 5 people, and then I'll give it a break, and then we'll start it back up again. But BYOBB is also going to be coming back probably in the summer. So make sure you go out and support this man that is the sponsor of that event, which is Amor Genev. He has the world's first blue wine. Like, we're just dropping.
See that color blue, right? He was here at the beginning. It's blue.
So if you have a wedding that you're going to, that's what you need to bring. And if you order it with II Blue in the promo code II Blue, you'll get $4 off the bottle. So go. It's about to be summertime. People going to be outside. They're going to have weddings. Yo, go get a bottle.
This is just a sample so that I can show you guys whenever I need to pull it out. Trust me, I got 2 bottles over there waiting for me to enjoy them. I actually have 3 bottles. That's a whole nother conversation. But it is so delicious. And he was a scientist who decided to do wine in dedication of his father. So support the BYOBB, support this with Daintico. Just support everything this man is doing because he's supporting the rest of the community.
Yes, yes. Alrighty. Well, have a wonderful day, everyone. And this is it.